right, so I just wanted to do a quick video on this, trying to document my process a little bit more than I normally do. One for myself, but two, just to like put this out in the open and just maybe this will be helpful to somebody. Maybe somebody will see this and have like feedback or ways that I can do certain things better. But I just want to tend to spend this time to try shaping the SpringBoard project. So this is going to be a plugin that I'm going to build for WordPress using Elm. The idea, if you've been following along, is to try and bring Elm into the WordPress community. And I think that plugins are the place to do it because they have a lot of complexity, as we're going to be seeing in this LOL, in this plugin that I'm building. So I wanted to map out the problem first for this plugin that I've been thinking about, and I wanted to do something that was more like real world application, something that is a problem that I've faced, and I have done client projects. I worked for like my full-time job with my company, and this is just like a problem that I've noticed across the board, which is well, let's just write it out. Processes for tasks in the WordPress admin are either sprinkled around the admin, or they are like located in some wiki that's like offsite, like in some other website or some other platform. And it just makes this difficult because it's like outside of the context of WordPress. Let me tell you, typing and speaking at the same time, not easy. But this just makes onboarding, especially like if you're trying to onboard like new clients, it makes onboarding into these processes difficult. And like if you're in like a larger team, you might have gotten better at it over time, but I've just found that like if you're doing a bunch of tasks inside of the WordPress admin and they're documented somewhere else, it's just not as easy as it could be. So the solution that I've kind of started thinking through myself is just what would happen if we could just create these processes directly inside of the admin in one location. A springboard, if you will, for all your processes with Kanban style tracking, which let's share what Kanban is for people who might not know. So Kanban's basically like Trello. All right, there's your answer. But I'll show a quick picture real quick. Ow! Just destroyed my elbow on this desk. Kanban is like this. It's got these like columns. It got these little cards where it's like to do, in progress, ready for review, done, whatever your stages are. It just is this idea of like there are tasks, there are different stages, and you can drag them across different stages of doneness, I guess. But yeah, and I think that'd be interesting to have, and also would include enough complexity to show why Elm is a good alternative to just PHP and jQuery for something like this. But the idea here is that this will give new employees, maybe you hire like contractors, or for your clients if you're an agency, the processes they'll need documented in one place. Where they actually need it. They need it so bad it's gonna have 3 E's. But yeah, so that's kind of like the problem and the solution that I've kind of outlined in my head. And so I just wanted to take this time to kind of think through feature set for this. Obviously, I'm not going to do all of these features just because I'm one dude and I don't want to spend like eternity trying to do this. But I want to show like it needs to be like mature enough to really show the power of Elm in the WordPress plugin. and I've also got this kind of like concept or idea of like maybe I put out a V1 that's more MVP-ish, and then show like, okay, what happens as like a plugin matures and like you start getting these new feature requests? How does your code base evolve with that? And I think with just iTunes, why? I think as like in like a normal PHP WordPress plugin, like you can be scared of your code base going in and like changing like a whole system. Like say people are like, Kanban boards are terrible, I don't want to use Kanban boards, could we do it another way? That could be like something that is like really scary to do in a PHP code base, but in Elm it's a breeze. So like maybe that's what we'll do, something like that down the road. But these are just going to be like my initial feature thoughts. Pardon my dog. I'm gonna pause real quick. I'll be right back once I get my dog to be quiet. All right, I'm back. So where was I? All right, index page of like all the processes, and then maybe like a detail view. Not maybe, like you have to have a detailed view of the process itself. And this is where like the Kanban board would be. I think inside of this index, I obviously will need like the list of process summaries. I think there would be filtering involved, maybe like search. CRUD. Create, read, update, delete, in case you aren't familiar with the acronym. But one thing that I want to do specific to this is optimistic UI, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's this idea of whenever you edit something on the client side and save it, you're going to send that data off to the server, and instead of showing like a loading indicator, it just automatically updates the UI with what was entered. And then if you get back a success from the server, it's like, the reason it's called optimistic is because like you're following the happy path, which is like, it's gonna work, let's just show it so people can like keep moving along. And then what happens is if like there's a server error, maybe you get like a retry button to try and send those details again. I think there's like pros and cons to this approach, obviously, but I wanted to include it because I think that it adds a specific amount of like complexity inside of Elm that would be interesting to like model out. But yeah, so the other thing that I think I want to add, just for, I don't think that this would be included in like a default state of like a plugin I was creating, like the initial version, but I wanted to add this for like complexity, and like I've had this idea around being able to do like overall view types, which I think can be interesting here. So I want to show like the index view in different layouts and be able to like hold the view type, the view state inside of like these overall custom types that map to like 3 different views. So I think that would be interesting to do. Once again, my dog is barking. All right, so I think that kind of is the overall features that are needed on the index, but I think we could dive into a little more detail here. So I think each summary needs to have like a title and a description. And then obviously they'll need to be able to link to a detailed view. And then I want to do inline editing. So like there's like, you can edit one card at a time directly in the view, which is something that Elm makes pretty easy to do, but can be difficult when you're just trying to do it with like jQuery and PHP. So I think that is just a fun one to do. I think each process could have categories. So there's this idea of categories. I don't think this is something I'll do right out of the gate, but I think it could be interesting to add like assigning processes to a user, and then maybe well, I think that will go under this filter, but obviously you can filter by the category. That's why we added them. And this idea of like frequently used or like completed, this idea of like this process is the most used or this process is the least used, could be interesting both for like seeing what happens the most in your processes for your company, and also like ones that may never have any use, and it's like, okay, this is a good way to tell like what do we think we do but we don't actually do. So I think that would be interesting. I think that's all that I want to cover as far as like features on the index page. As far as the detail view, obviously there's going to be the Kanban board. That's the whole point of this. And then I want it to be drag and drop. Obviously you can do it other ways, but you know, complexity. Here's CRUD again with optimistic UI here. I think having it in two places doing the exact same thing opens up the potential for like being able to map like an abstraction for optimistic UIs, which could be interesting to cover. There needs to be a button to like reset the process itself. Once you've like dragged everything over to the right, you don't want to have to drag them all individually back over to do the next time, because the idea is here is this like these repeating processes. And then obviously the individual like process tasks. They'll have content. I want to have like links in the repeater field. So let's say maybe your company still has a wiki. Maybe you want to link to different how-tos that are like dive a little more in detail, or like the main use case I think for this is, okay, here's the task that needs to be done, and then here's the link to exactly where in the WordPress admin that it is done at. So I think that would be good to have. I want to have edit inline here as well, and surprise, we need to have CRUD and optimistic UI for tasks as well. And then I think the only other thing that I can think of that might be interesting is like assigning tasks to like a task to a user, because you might have a small company where one person's responsible for the whole process, but then again you might also have a larger company where each process, the tasks are handled by different team members, so that could be interesting to model. But yeah, I think that's it as far as I'm concerned. I just wanted to be more open about sharing this process. This might be like totally awkward and people are like uncomfortable watching this, but I think that I want to just be more open with this process. One, to get feedback from all of you who watch this and are following along, because I want to be able to show more of my like thought process behind this, and not just like oh, this is the pretty final solution and everything went perfect along the way. I want to just be able to be raw with this process and like the tough parts and my hopes for this, and then the reality later on when I actually start trying to develop this plugin. It'll be interesting to have this like documented along the way. So I'd love to hear feedback from you on how you felt about this video, in terms of like, did you like it? Would you rather have like blog posts? What type of updates would you like to see? And then I think the next step will be working on like the UX, maybe the screen design of the plugin. I think that could be interesting as like maybe a time lapse, but I could also do it as another video, which I might do, just so you can, I like capturing this like stream of consciousness while I'm doing this, because the design or the text or like what you highlight only covers so much. But yeah, if you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, also let me know. But yeah, I think we'll call it a day at that.